What is that four-letter word that has the world in its spell? No, it is not love. It is gold. I am at the entrance of Long Tunnel Extended Gold Mine at Walhalla in Victoria, Australia. Walhalla used to be not only a very large gold mine in Victoria, it was also one of the largest in Australia. Gold has universal appeal. It serves as the bedrock of our wealth. Used extensively in jewelry, art and medicine, the value of gold transcends time and cultures. Why is gold so precious? It is incredibly ductile and malleable. 1 ounce of gold can be drawn into a wire 80 km long and beaten into a sheet that covers 100 square feet. Gold has medicinal properties. It is used in traditional medicines like the Ayurveda. Gold cyanide can kill the bacteria that cause tuberculosis. Gold can cure rheumatoid arthritis. Some say gold can target cancer cells. Resistant to rust and fading, gold can retain its luster even after centuries, making it a sound investment against troubled times. Gold is extracted from minerals like quartzite.
I'll give you a bit of history on Walhalla before we go in. Now, gold was discovered here in Walhalla in 1862. It was discovered by a man called Ned Stringer. Once Ned realises he's got quite a lot there, he knows he has to make a claim for that. So he takes off to a place called Bald Hills, it's now called Seaton, and he makes his claim over there. But for him to get from here to get over to Bald Hills and get back again, that takes him about 2 weeks. And in that time, there's plenty of men in the area who've worked out something's happening. Even as he makes his claim, there's about 14 men that actually follow him back here. In about 3 months, they have about 300 men. They're getting pretty good gold within about 2 years. And here we're halfway up the mountain. They're not sure how they're going to go. So they know the quality of that reef decreases in gold the higher up you go, and it improves in gold the lower you go. So halfway up the mountain, they weren't sure. They still get shareholders together. They raised about £14,400 and they started the Hercules United Gold Mining Company. It's on this spot in 1865 that they started to dig this mine. For us to get here, it's only taken us about 2 minutes to walk here. It's taken the Hercules United Gold Mining Company 2 years to dig to this point. You can still see the gate. We haven't come in very far at all. And they're digging it all by hand, and they're using the hammer and tap method. So there's our hammer and our tap. Now the tap was just a piece of steel. It's got a hardened end and it's got 4 points on it. Now it would have been a 2-man job, a bit like you see in this photo up here. One miner would be holding that up against the rock face. Now they're not getting paid very well at the start either. They're only getting paid about 24 shillings for a foot of work. So it's not a lot of money. In today's cash, you're looking at about $7 a metre. And it wasn't paid to the men directly either. That would be paid to the mine manager, and he would disperse that amongst his men. So if you got on really well with the mine manager and you did a good job that week, well, you probably got a little bit extra in your paycheck. But if the mine manager wasn't too keen on you, or you did a bad job that week, well, you probably got a little bit less. So it's a really unfair way of being paid, but it's totally up to that mine manager's discretion on how you do get paid. Now, it's also pretty dangerous sort of work. If you can imagine swinging this sledgehammer around for 8 hours a day, it's going to get pretty heavy. You don't want to hit the man that you're working with. He's not going to like that one little bit. And halfway through the shift too, they used to swap positions, so he'd have a chance to hit you back as well. Wouldn't want that to happen either. Yeah. But if you did hit him, say you've broken his arm or broken his hand, something like that, there's no such thing as workers' compensation back then, but the men would get together and they'd make sure he was looked after. If you were the guy that broke his hand, they'd certainly make sure you felt an obligation to be putting some of your pay into keeping him going till he could get back here and earn money again.
The mines are dark, dingy and slippery. The mining process itself is fraught with danger and a harbinger of disease and death.
They're also working in pretty dark conditions down here. This mine won't get electric lights in it. It's about 1903. So in the very beginning, they're using candles made from tallow, made from an animal fat. So they're not letting off very much light, and they've got a pretty foul smell about them as well. The men would be lucky to sort of see each other's faces or even the areas they were working in. And we know that led to problems. There was a story of the two men who get ready to blow out their section. They fill up their holes with black powder and it was the end of their shift. So they go home, the two new men come in to take over. They think they've still got to do hammer and tap work and they blow themselves up down here. So you get a lot of horrible stories like that in the mine as well.
The miners would have used these candles down in the mines. It burns an inch every hour, so it's a 10-hour shift. By the time the candle's almost done, then they realise that their shift's done, and then they come back up.
Now from that intersection we were just at, and to get down to here, it's taken them another 4 years of digging. Now most of that's still being done with the hammer and tap until 1875 when this gets invented. That's the pneumatic rock drill. That makes their life a lot easier. They can get through the mine in double time when they're using that. Problem is though, wherever they're using these rock drills in the mine's filling up with dust. The men are breathing that in, it's settling on their lungs and it's causing silicosis, or otherwise known as miner's complaint. So for about 15 years in these mines, they're a pretty lethal place to be working. You wouldn't want to be here at all if you knew. Now the miners knew the dust was a bit of a problem. They didn't think it was going to kill them eventually, of course. And if you see early photos of the early miners, they've got big thick moustaches and big thick beards. They're trying to filter out a lot of that dust, but it just wasn't working for them. So a miner that would start in this mine about the age of 18, he's probably going to be dead by about the age of 28. He'd be really lucky to get into his 30s. That's why this ends up with the nickname the Widowmaker. I'm sure someone would have heard that called before. Now things do eventually change for the men, and it doesn't change because someone's suddenly worried about the miners' health and safety or anything like that. It changes because they're worried about these rock drills. Now the rock drills are overheating all the time. They have to have downtime to let them cool down. Something is eventually done about it, and it was this thing here. It's an American invention, and it was called the Colorado drill bit. And it had a hole in the base and a hole in the tip, and they would have inserted water through that. So now wherever they're using these rock drills in the mine, that water's keeping the rock drills a lot cooler, they can work them for a lot longer, but it's now also turning all that dust that they were breathing in into a fine mud, like a slurry. So it becomes so much more healthier for the men eventually. Now, also in the miner's kit, he's going to need a few of these little things. That's called a miner's spider. Now he's going to need that wherever he's working in the mine, but he won't be supplied it by the company. He'll have to make that himself or go and visit a blacksmith and get a few of these made up. But wherever he'd be working in the mine, he'd find a crack in the rock and he would hammer that into it. He'd have that tallow candle that I mentioned earlier. And he places that tallow candle into that ring. When he lights it, it's going to burn for about 8 hours. So he knows once it gets down to the very base of the ring there, it's time to knock off. Now also in this part of the mine, you'll notice we've got this rock lit up here, and we have another one that's lit up in here. Now we had a geologist come into the mine a few years ago, and they explained to us how that was the bottom of the ocean 400 million years ago. So it's pretty amazing to see it sitting up there, seeing what time and pressure's done to that mud and sand, how it's turned it to stone, but it's also retained that wave shape it would have had from all that water motion all those years ago.
It may lack reasonable working conditions, ventilation, lavatories.
If you came into work for your 8-hour day, that's exactly what they expected from you. They're not keen on giving you a break at all. Now that doesn't happen until about 1890. It's when the union actually gets involved after the shearers caused a bit of a fuss trying to get some more break time for their men. But the mining union get involved and they create a legislation that gives the men a 10-minute break for their 8-hour day. They would have kept it a bit nicer. They would have swept it out. They'd have whitewashed walls. They'd have a lit candle, and the company even supplied cold water for the men too, so they'd be able to come here and get a cold drink, which was something pretty rare in those days. One thing that wasn't very nice though about the crib room would have been a bucket that they kept in the corner. Oh, you've worked that out. Yeah. Yeah, the old toilet bucket. Because originally in this mine, if you came into work for your 8-hour day, there was no toilets in here and there was no bucket in the corner either. So originally the men are just going wherever they feel like it. That becomes a pretty stinky mess very quickly. They have to stop that. So for a while, every man will have his own bucket. And if he needs to go to the toilet, he disappears into a dark part of the mine. He'll go and do his business in his bucket. Now, he's not to leave that in the mine. He's got to take that with him at the end of his shift. Now the problem there is that he works in a gold mine, and he could have been working in an area where they found some really nice samples of gold. Well, he's going to be searched every time he leaves the mine. They're going to look in his nose, they're going to look in his ears, they're going through his hair, his mouth, in his beard, they'll go through all his clothes, but they don't want to look in his poo bucket. So it became a way men were actually stealing gold out of the mine. The managers worked out that was happened and they had to pull it up. They put an end to the nugget in the nugget scheme. So in the end, there was the one bucket there, one man in charge of it.
Today, China leads gold production, followed by Russia, Australia, US, Canada, South Africa. India is the largest importer of gold. Gold is intrinsic to Indian culture and a very important part of a woman's dowry or trousseau. The purity of gold is measured in carats. 24 carats being the purest form, followed by ornament grade 22 and 18 carats. Gold has profound historical significance. Ancient Egyptians believed gold derived from the sun, using it to preserve the pharaohs for their afterlife. Inca civilization linked gold to the rays of the sun. Gold has found reference in biblical times and in Greek, Roman, and Nubian empires. Wars have been fought and civilizations risen and fallen over the pursuit of gold. For example, the destruction of the Inca Empire by Spanish conquistadors. Legends and myths surround gold. For example, John Ruskin's story of the man who refused to let go of his bag of gold and eventually drowned. There was King Midas, whose touch converted everything into gold: food, water, even his own daughter. Was that good or was it bad? Mention in comments. We hear about El Dorado, the mythical city of gold, somewhere in the Americas. Well, we are all searching for our pot of gold, aren't we? Uncharted territory. Terrestrial gold. One asteroid can yield $80 trillion of precious metal. So, the mythical city of El Dorado may be in outer space after all. That was the story of gold on Learn with Samita. Next time you wear gold jewelry, do not forget to say a silent prayer for the man who toiled in the depths of the earth to extract the nugget that went into the making of your jewelry. For more inspiring content like this, stay subscribed. Spread the Learn with Samita buzz. Share, comment, like, and as I said, subscribe. Till next time, this is Samita signing off.